ground shake. here with you. See your face in the crowd, but you don't seem so far away. Nothing between us is empty space, empty space. Even when the music is loud, I'd rather be no other place. Here with you now, here with you now. Here with you now. Here with you. Rather be no other place than here with you now.
All right, everybody, how's it going? Welcome to Step 6 of the TMGL Winter 2021 edition. Today is indeed the final day of the regular season, and we've got Scrapie definitely in a position where he's going to have a big day here to try and close this one out with a top 8 in the regular season. So definitely a lot on the line here today for Scrapie, but we'll see if he has what it takes to get himself in a good position at the end of the day. Right now, though, we are going to be kicking it off with our first map of the day. Whoop's going to be our kickoff map here in Step 6. Scrapie looking to have a good showing if he can on the overall day, but it is going to be a tough one here overall. I know I talked to Scrapie here kind of leading into the week, and he's definitely feeling a little bit unsure going into this one. I know he said he's been having some trouble sleeping, so hopefully he's still able to find his way into a comfortable position here at the end of the day. A little bit of a rough start here on map number 1, though. We'll see if he can find his way to recover. Right now, though, definitely going to be a tough start here on Whoops coming into this first section of ice, though. Already starting to clean it up a little bit and find some recovery here. As you can see, though, already catching back up a little bit. Just a bit of a rough start there around the first couple of turns, so already a little bit of recovery needed here in this first map, but Scrapie kind of finding his way into it pretty nicely, starting to chip away at that time difference to catch up with the pack here. Coming into lap number 2, though, Scrapie just going to be looking to try and recover a bit more here each and every lap. About 2 seconds behind Affy there in 15th, so already having to chip away at that time difference. It's going to be a bit of an uphill battle here on this first map of the day, but I know going into it, Scrapie basically said after what happened last week, his main focus is really those final 2 maps and making sure nothing bad happens there, and that's ultimately the best chance he's going to have of closing out the day with some success here, because if you guys were tuning in last week, Scrapie had an incredible performance on the day overall, but unfortunately in that final race of the day, he got 9th place in the last lap. He just barely lost it there, and I know that's got to be one of those things that stings a little bit, but we'll see if there's any recovery here in store today to close out the regular season for Scrapie. As you can see, already catching up to Tween here. It's pretty close between these two guys, fighting over that 15th spot at the moment. Affy not too far out in front of them as well. The top 6, though, looking pretty clean amongst themselves so far. Right now, Bren, the current race leader overall on the track here. Right now, though, Tween and Scrapie here battling it out amongst the back of the pack here. Scrapie, though, generally pretty clean in this ice section, which I think if there's any chance for him to recover and make a little bit of a gain here on this map, that ice section is going to be one of the key elements here on the map where he's able to do so. As you can see, already gaining almost a full second over Tween, and now starting to make a little bit of a dent in catching up to this middle of the pack here as we kind of round out the completion of lap number 3. Right now, though, Scrapie's still fighting his way back to the top. 15th place right now so far on map number 1. A lot of work to be done here today, but Scrapie, the biggest thing he needs to do is hold on to any points he can in those final 2 races. Otherwise, it's going to be very unlikely that he finds his way in the top 8 here at the end of step number 6. Coming into the day, he definitely has his work cut out for him. I believe he's just about 40 points off of a qualifying position for that top 8, so he's going to continue to try and make his presence known here. But as you can see, the recovery coming through quite nicely. Even though it was 16th place at the start, he's already climbing his way back up the pack here in this late half of the race. Moving now into 13th position and continuing to keep it smooth here into the bunny hops. And this is what you love to see here, guys. I mean, he didn't have the best of starts, but he's not really letting that shake him too much here in map number 1. Now on lap 5 out of 6, starting to work his way into the middle of the pack here and make that climb back up the leaderboard. Looking better and better each lap here for Scrapie on Whoops. We'll see if he can find a top 10, potentially even a top 8 out of this one. He's got Yvonne and Papu pretty close in front of him. Affy not too far off here as well. And this ice section for Scrapie, if he can keep this clean as usual, I think he's going to be in a pretty good spot here. As you can see, coming out of it, Yvonne takes a dive over the wall, and Scrapie makes another gain here on the leaderboard. Nicely done so far here from Scrapie. The final 2 laps could be a pretty good impact for Scrapie if he keeps this up. As you can see, the bunny hops looking pretty clean for Scrapie here today as well. I know in the past this was a section of the map that gave him some trouble, but you can see he's kind of cleaned this one up pretty smoothly in those last few sections of track there. So definitely excited to see what he can do in the final lap. Now 11th place on the table for himself, potentially a top 10, maybe even a top 8 if he can find some good opportunities here to get a few passes in the final lap. Right now, though, the target is Papu here for that 10th position. Affy very close in front as well, and Scrapie going to be looking for that potential double pass here coming up into the ice section. Scrapie a little bit shaky going into it, but Papu dives in the ice section, and that's 10th place now for Scrapie. And there we have it, Scrapie from a rough start, already back in the top 10 here now in the final lap, going into this final section of track, looking for potentially more if he can have a smooth run over the bunny hops here. There may be an overtake potential if one of these drivers isn't quite as smooth here. And as you can see, Kappa having some trouble. Scrapie looking for even more here to cross the finish line, and there he'll have it. 9th place recovery for Scrapie. Not too bad considering the circumstances here on map number 1, so definitely a much cleaner way to start it than maybe what we would have expected, considering, you know, for a while there, Scrapie was in 16th place and 2 seconds behind the 15th place driver. So when you look at what he's been able to do here just in map number 1, he basically recovered almost an average of 4 seconds or so on his average lap time, which is not an easy task to do, and that's going to put Scrapie right in the middle of the pack to kick off the day, and that's definitely a good sign here. You know, even though he had that shakiness in the beginning, he didn't let it hinder his success here on map number 1, and still able to put up some decent placements for himself here so far. It's definitely far from over just yet here, guys, though. There's going to be 5 more maps in store in step number 6, and of course, those final 2 maps of the day going to be the most crucial to see if Scrapie can fight his way into a top 8 position to close out step 6, but definitely got to hand it to Scrapie here on map number 1, looking very solid overall to close it out. Getting ready here, though, for map number 2. It is going to be reversing to keep us moving forward. And this is one of those maps where Scrapie, he's had a few shaky laps that have cost him some major time, but when Scrapie is keeping it consistent, I think this is one of his stronger maps here, so I definitely see some good potential for a good placement here. Scrapie, though, in the warm-up here, just trying to get comfortable about a minute before we kick it off here on our second map of the day. Of course, don't forget, guys, we're going to have clash time coming up here during the next break between maps, and we'll see if chat has what it takes to maybe pull off a clash time win here today. Right now, though, Scrapie getting some good practice in the reversing section of the map now on the warm-up. A little bit of a bump there, you could see, though, coming out of it. Just trying to clean this one up before we get into the actual match. So a little shaky in warm-up, but hopefully that shakiness will be taken care of here in the live map and he'll be ready to go. All right, guys, let's kick it off now. It's time to go. Map number 2, reversing. Let's see how Scrapie can do. Currently tied for 9th place with Affy as we kick it off. It's going to be up to Scrapie to prove himself and see if he can get a high placement here in our second map of the day. Starting this one off, though, Scrapie with an early lead here around the first couple of turns, looking pretty clean around the edges. Has to be careful, though. Any high risk could come with some potential to fall behind as well if there is any mistakes following it. So far, though, things looking good. Scrapie still comfortably within the top 8 here, fighting amongst the top 4 at the moment. Around the last couple of checkpoints, losing a little bit of ground here, but nothing without the potential to be recovered here. Going into the first drop-down reverse section, it's going to be up to Scrapie to keep this one clean and keep his composure to make sure he stays in a comfortable position. Coming out of the reverse, though, it is going to be Scrapie, comfortably within the top 8 still. Now working his way into lap number 2, feeling pretty confident so far. Starting off this lap, it's going to be Scrapie moving quickly back into the top 3, looking for even more momentum to go his way. Scrapie, though, seeming to look very smooth in this opening section of track each and every lap so far. He's already made up a bit of time separating him between Pack and Carl Jr., who currently lead it overall. Scrapie, though, that is going to be a bit of a shaky landing coming out of that last section, resulting in a quick move into about 9th place here. Going into the next section, it's going to be the reverse. And Scrapie looking for a bit of recovery now after that slight mishap earlier on in this lap. Coming out of the reverse section, though, it's going to be Scrapie still recovering nicely, but he does have some ground to make up here now. Going into the start of lap number 3, though, as you can see, already chipping away back at a potential spot here in the top 8. Going into it here, Scrapie still maintaining his consistency in these lap times and definitely showing that he is one of the faster drivers lap for lap. He just needs to make sure he's not risking too much to where it could be the downfall here of potential points on the table. And Scrapie just tends to be one of those drivers, though. You've seen it time and time again. Sometimes the extra little risks he's willing to take can come back to hurt him. But this time around, the final day of the regular season, Scrapie has to try and bring his A game here. Already moving back, though, into the top 8. Scrapie now in the reversing section, looking to keep this one clean, coming out of it. Going to see what he can do to maybe make up some additional ground here in the next lap. Coming out of the reverse. Does fall back a couple spots here, but definitely within the distance to recover quickly. As you can see, coming out of it, it's going to be Kappa hot on his heels as well, as they prepare for lap number 4 here to potentially be a big pass coming through. Looks like Riali went down and out in this last set of turns there. I'm not sure exactly what happened there, but Riali moves all the way back into 16th position. Scrapie, though, still trying to fight back into the top 8 here, currently in 9th on lap number 4 of reversing. And right now, I think it's the section right here, the reverse section, that's going to have to be the area he shows a little bit more recovery in. This seems to be part of what's held him back just a little bit here, but coming out of it this time, he's going to have to try and clean it up just a bit. And as you can see, he takes it a little bit tighter this time around, and it pays off greatly, now moving himself back into the top 8, 7th place as we go into lap number 5. As you can see there, Kappa and Mutta losing a bit of speed around the last couple of turns as well. Mutta drops from 5th to 8th in just about a lap there. Scrapie, though, now in 6th place with 2 laps to go. Not a bad spot to be in at all, but he's still looking for more here in these last remaining laps. Going into the reverse section, though, if he can keep it clean like we saw in that previous run-through, I definitely think there's going to be a strong chance that Scrapie can have a good finish here on this second track of the day. Here we go, though, right into the reverse section. Scrapie looking to maintain or improve here in the final 2 laps, and coming out of this reverse section, he's got to be cautious here. Doesn't want to cut it too tight inside to where he hits the wall, but still has to take a little bit of risk here to try and continue the momentum that's on his side. Coming out of it into the final lap, Scrapie quickly moves into the top 4, and this is going to be all it comes down to here, guys. Everything on the line for Scrapie for a potential strong placement in this final lap on reversing. Top 4 now being held. We'll see if there's even the potential for a top 3 here, but more importantly, has to make sure that there's no risks here in this final lap. He's definitely in a position where holding on to a top 4 is all he really needs here. He doesn't need to risk it and potentially lose a good chunk of points on this one. Here we go, though, right into it. It's the final section of reversing here. All he has to do is close it out, and that will be a strong finish here if he can keep it clean on this last section of track. Coming out of it, Scrapie going for the full reverse finish again. This time around, though, he does manage to lose a little bit on it, trying to finesse his way into a clean finish, but he does fall to about 6th, but still overall, you've got to be pretty happy with the performance here. It's going to be 6th place for Scrapie here on reversing. But there you have it, guys. It is going to be a top 6 finish and, some decent points gained overall. We'll definitely take those here. It's going to put Scrapie at 13 already on the day. Still in a tie for 9th place overall, but definitely in a position to start accumulating some points to potentially hold on to going into those final 2 tracks of the day. And we all know at the end of the day, those final 2 maps basically decide the fate of all of the drivers here. So, getting some early points on your side, while that is beneficial if you're able to do well in the final 2 maps, if those final 2 maps result in anything other than a top 8, it's really hard to get any big impact points on the overall score for the day. So right now, it's going to be up to Scrapie to continue this momentum forward and have a strong final 4 maps here in the regular season. Now points will be at risk for all of the drivers here. Half points at risk the next 2 maps, and then, of course, all of your points at risk in those final 2 maps. So definitely have to look out for those. But guys, we are going to be hopping into Clash time here. Get ready, chat. This is your chance to take the wheel and guide us to victory here. The controls there on your screen. So we'll see if we can get it done this time around. This time, though, the big advantage, guys, is there's no sharp turns. It's just a giant straightaway with a few easy turns, 1 ice turn in here. I think we could get this one done this time around. I definitely think we can get a lap. This one, yeah, I think this one's on our side. Honestly, this seems like the type of track where we could basically just accelerate all the way through if we really wanted to. Like, the turns are going to be not sharp enough to where you're not going to find your way around it just by accelerating. So we'll see what happens. Get those pluses going, and we'll see where we land. Hopping on, though, it is going to be a tough one at the start. We're already spinning out just a hair, but right now it's going to be, unfortunately, going in reverse there. Quick reset. Let's see if we can get it back on our side. We just got to take it nice and easy here. Once we get through this section, I'd say it's pretty smooth sailing to just accelerate the rest of the way through, guys. So, yeah, let's just keep accelerating here, see what we can do. The walls will guide us, I think, on this one pretty comfortably. Yeah, and there we have it. I think this one's going to be a lot smoother of a track for everybody, since you can kind of accelerate your way out of it. Slow and steady wins the race, right, guys? So far, just keeping our momentum on the wall. All right, all right. I think this one we can kind of just ride it out this way. It's going to be a little bit slower, but hey, a little bit of centering coming out there. We've got some high riskers in chat going for that quick little turn. Right now, though, still just got to keep it straight now, going into the ice again. Could it be a lap completed, though? It looks like Carl Jr.'s group may have completed the first lap here, but let's see if we can get it done, guys. I'm not sure if it's going to happen, though, here. Still kind of spinning out. Might just need to go for the reset on this one. All right. Here we go. Let's see what happens on the reset. This ice section definitely going to be the toughest part, I think, for everybody to get through. It looks like we're going to make it, though. Just need to accelerate out of it, guys, and I think we've done it here. That's going to be at least a lap completed here if we can find our way through. We're starting to make it, starting to make it. All right, there we go. Nice and easy. All right, 7th place, not bad. Made it to lap 2 as well. Definitely better than our previous guys. We've actually got a lap completed. I think that's the first time for all of us here. Right now, though, 7th place, not too bad. I think there's some people that have made it to lap 3 already, though. Pretty crazy. Hopefully not stuck here on the wall. There we go. We'll fight our way through. Hopefully we can make it through the ice section again here. We just got to keep on accelerating and hoping that things don't get too crazy here in the ice section. All right, not too bad, not too bad. Let's see if we can make it out of it. All right, chat, look at that. That was clean. I think we all can admit that was a pretty clean section there. Good job, chat. Give yourselves a pat on the back. That was pretty clean. All right, guys, we made it to lap 3 out of 3. We're in the top 4. Not too bad. Let's keep it going, see if we can finish this one out. We've only got 20 seconds. I don't think we're going to finish 3 laps, but, you know, hey, 4th place, not doing too bad. Maybe we can get the pass here. It's close. Someone going in reverse there. Not quite what was planned for that group, I'm sure. And there we have it. It is going to be nobody completing the race, but hey, guys, we got 4th place. Not too bad, not too bad. We take those. Good job, chat. Top 4 finish. We'll get them next time, but 4th place, not too bad. All right, guys, we are going to take a quick moment while we prepare for our next race of the day and give you a quick product showcase here from XP Sports. Be sure to check them out. Going to have a quick ad real quick, and then we'll be right back. All right, guys, we are back and ready to go here. Shout out to XP Sports as well. Be sure to check them out at xpsports.com. You can use code Scrapie as well for 30% off. So definitely be sure to show some support for Scrapie and check those guys out. Of course, a shout out to our other partners here as well, Logitech G, and of course Surfshark as well. Be sure to check them out by typing !VPN in the chat there and get yourselves a nice VPN. Going into map number 3, though, Scrapie currently 13 points overall on the day. Looking to see what he can do here to continue this momentum forward. He had a rough start on map number 1, recovered that nicely, and finished overall with a decent placement there on map number 2 as well. But now, this is when the pressure starts to mount on these drivers here. Points are at risk for the remainder of the day. And this is where Scrapie needs to try and bring his A game here and really have a big day. We've got about a minute here of warm-up though. Arctic Split going to be the next map that Scrapie takes on here. Right now, the overall points for the day, leader is going to be Gwen with 25, Bren and Spam not too far behind as well, and Spam actually currently in 9th place overall, so he's in need of a pretty big day here as well. It's definitely going to be down to the wire because not only does Scrapie need to have a pretty successful day here, it's also going to depend on how a lot of these other drivers in the middle of the pack in terms of overall points place on the day as well. And for Scrapie, it just makes those last 2 races even more crucial to have a strong performance in, since he has no idea where the rest of the pack is going to place and how many points the rest of these drivers may obtain here as well. So Scrapie, I'd say realistically, he's going to need about 50 points, maybe even more today, to guarantee he's in the top 8. So a lot of work still left to be done here, but if anyone can do it, I think Scrapie is definitely a capable driver to get the job done here. But guys, let's give him some love and support here as we get this one kicked off. Race number 3 of the day, Arctic Split. Here we go. Scrapie now half points at risk here as we kick this one off. Starting it off, a little slow start around the first corner. Not sure quite what happened, just seemed a little bit shaky coming out of the first few turns, but Scrapie looking to try and recover here quickly and move right up the middle of the pack. Coming out of the first couple of turns here, Scrapie already getting some momentum back on his side. Going into this turn, we know Scrapie likes to take that little short corner there and try and reduce his time just a hair, and it seems to have worked so far in this first run through of it. Moving already from 16th into 13th. Now comfortably within that middle of the pack fight. Still a lot of work left to be done here. Not an easy map because it does move very, very quickly, especially these uphill sections. Going to be a challenging area, I think, for some of these drivers to just consistently perform well in. And as you can see, Scrapie, one small bump coming out of it pushes him back into 15th here. We'll see what recovery can come through here in lap number 2. Scrapie going into it, going to be sitting right around that 14th position, looking for some additional recovery now on the second lap. Scrapie, though, not quite in a position where he's comfortable just yet on this one. A couple early blunders here have cost him quite a bit of time here. About 2 seconds outside of the top 8, still only about 4 seconds off of first place position, so it's definitely not unreasonable to say Scrapie could work his way quickly back into the top 8, but it's definitely going to take a pretty strong effort on his end to do so. Right now, though, Scrapie still trying to pick up the pace here and find his way back into the top 8. In this uphill section, he definitely has to try and keep it a bit cleaner this time around. I know last time that little bump cost him so much time here, and as you can see this time, looking a lot cleaner so far in it. Going into the last turn, definitely looking much better this time. Now here on lap number 3, it's all about consistency. Keeping that momentum on his side going forward here is going to be the name of the game. Going into the first few turns of lap number 3, though, still looking for that momentum to swing into the top 8. He's approaching the middle of the pack again here, but definitely has to be cautious not to do anything too risky that could result in another error. Right now it is going to be Scrapie still trying to make some headway on these drivers in 12th through 9th, very close behind them, but still about a half a second off of Kappa in that 12th position. Going into the uphill boost section here, Scrapie looking to try and keep this one clean once again. As you can see, it's going to be Link who falls there. A bit of an error on the uphill section, but this time Scrapie takes the inside cut coming into this lap number 4, and now he is right in the fight here on the final 3 laps. Another driver down and out means Scrapie moving up quickly into 9th position, looking better and better each and every lap here. And now Scrapie with another inside cut takes a spot into the top 8. Definitely what you like to see here. Already a great position to hold on to. Scrapie going for the inside cut here. A little bit wide this time around as he comes out of it, but still keeps his position nicely. Scrapie, though, still has more work he can do in these final 3 laps, looking to see if he can maybe even make a jump into the top 6 here, with both Massa and Carl Jr. very close in front of him. Going into the uphill boost section, though, has to continually keep this one clean, because one bump on those pillars can really be a big hindrance on your overall time. And as you can see, it is going to be Scrapie taking the hit there on that pillar. This time not quite as aggressive as that last hit was against him, but still bumps him back into this 9th place position. Going into lap 5 here, though, Scrapie still looking to try and get that boost to find his way into a top 8 finish here. That's the name of the game for the rest of the day. Top 8 is the place he's got to be throughout to really have a chance to get some impactful points here. As you can see, it looked like we had a driver reset out of the top 8, so that is going to put Scrapie into a position here to move quickly up the leaderboards in the final 2 laps. He's got a couple drivers right in front of him here, and has to try and make this impact in the final 2 laps. The important section, though, is going to be the last 2 run-throughs of that uphill boost section of the map. That's really what's going to be the key to success here for Scrapie to have a strong finish on Arctic Split. Going into it, though, Scrapie will see if he can have it on his side this time around. Definitely a lot on the line here in these last 2 laps. Going into the boost section, though, things not looking too bad this time around. Scrapie keeping it clean into the finish line here. And now it's time for the final lap. Scrapie right on that cutoff here in the final lap, currently sitting in 8th place, looking to make even more progress here with this potential pass on to Kappa coming up as we go into it further. Kappa, though, still holding on just barely to that position gain. But Scrapie, around the last couple of turns, gets the momentum he needs to make the pass potential. Unfortunately, though, it's a back and forth, but the inside cut here for Scrapie could be enough to secure that pass, and that it will be done. Going into the final section of the uphill boost here, now it's going to be all on Scrapie to keep the consistency and close it out strong. He's got the position he's been looking for throughout this track, and now all he's got to do is hold on to it here in the final lap. Here we go into the uphill boost. Scrapie clean through the first uphill, and now into the second, trying to keep it around the corners as clean as possible. Still almost shaky there, but somehow finds his way out of it nicely. And there you have it, into the finish line. It's going to be Scrapie with another top 8 finish here, 6th place overall. And there we have it. Another big points gain for Scrapie on the day. Keeping those top 8s on his side is going to be the key here to success, and so far it is looking pretty solid here for Scrapie. This should definitely put him in a pretty strong position as well. As you can see, both Spam and Mutta alongside Gwen, who were the top 3 going into this race, all of them are going to lose half of their points. So Scrapie should make a decent little jump here on the overall leaderboards with this placement. And there you have it, 6th place now on the day for Scrapie, halfway through our day as well in step number 6. Scrapie definitely in a good position if he can keep this up. Still, those last 2 races have to be a top 8 finish, though. That's where all of the risk is going to be today for Scrapie. He can have an amazing day, but if those last 2 maps aren't as close to perfect as possible here for Scrapie, it could be all of the points he's gained today lost in one of those final 2 maps. So definitely has to keep his A game here throughout the remainder of the day. We'll see if he can get the job done, though. Scrapie definitely in a good position going into the next map here. Map number 4, once again, will be half points at risk. The final 2 maps, full points at risk. So Scrapie really looking to keep momentum on his side here. This next map going to be Whirlpool, though, to keep the ball rolling. If you guys are hanging out in chat as well, be sure to follow the channel here if you haven't to show some support here for Scrapie and keep up to date with not only our TMGL coverage, with also Scrapie's solo streams as well. Right now, though, Scrapie getting some nice warm-up here on Whirlpool, which will be our 4th map on the table for step number 6. Today we will close out the regular season, so Scrapie hoping to find his way into the top 8 overall when the day is said and done. We'll see if it happens here. It's going to be a close one regardless, I think. But Scrapie has to keep it pretty strong here in these final 3 maps of the day. Not a whole lot of room for error this time around. About 20 seconds here, though, and we will get to kick it off. Scrapie there, a little bit of a wall hit there in the warm-up. Hopefully just working things out before we get started here on the live map. All right, guys, here we go. Map number 4. Let's kick it off here. Top 8 is the goal, or better. And we'll see if Scrapie can get it done here. Going into it, it is going to be a tough one. Whirlpool as this 4th map. Definitely a map I can see being a bit of a challenge here for Scrapie. From the maps we've seen so far, I would definitely say this is going to be a pretty difficult one for him, just because there is a lot of room for error. But if he's come prepared here in this final week, he may be able to make an even bigger impact on his overall points. Going into the big loop here, it's going to be Scrapie currently in 11th place as we kick off the first lap. Coming out of the loop, Scrapie still looking to try and cut inside a bit here and maybe make up a bit of time. As you can see, the recovery already happening quickly for Scrapie going into the uphill section of track here. It's going to be Scrapie already fighting into the top 8. Now into the Whirlpools. Scrapie looking to maintain some consistency here in lap number 1, but definitely a track where you've got to be cautious in your approach because there's a lot of room for error in these Whirlpool sections and a lot of time that can also be gained and lost here. And as you can see, coming out of it, a loss of about 3 positions for him within that section of track, so definitely may need to rehash his approach in that second lap here. Going into lap number 2, though, Scrapie looking to strike back in for a placement within the top 8. 3 positions away from doing so. Into the big loop, coming out of it, a gain of 1. Lap number 2 here, though, looking for even more impact, cutting it inside again here in the midsection. Hopefully that'll play to his benefit again. As you can see right now, a lot of recovery again into the uphill section of track here. This seems to be one of the strong points for Scrapie on this map. Into the Whirlpools, though, this is where he lost some of his ground here, so definitely going to be looking for a cleaner approach this time around in the Whirlpool section coming out from Scrapie. As we can see, though, a couple drivers having some struggles in the midsection of the Whirlpools. allowing Scrapie to work his way back into the top 8 here coming out of it. Lap number 3 though, Scrapie definitely not in a safe position just yet, right on that cutoff between 8th and 9th at the moment, and still looking to maintain the momentum on his side. And this is the lap where you can see a lot of potential gain coming his way. 5 drivers very close in front of Scrapie, and going into these sections of track where Scrapie has a tendency to take the inside cut, it could be a potential for a few passes here coming up shortly for him. Scrapie, though, still fighting neck and neck with Rialu there, who actually is able to get the pass going into the uphill section here. Scrapie looking for some extended recovery, but unfortunately coming into the Whirlpools, it looked like he actually lost a little bit of ground here, but actually picks up speed going into the second set here. And we'll see if he can come out on top. All right, coming out of the Whirlpools, not too bad for Scrapie. A little shaky on the landing there, still right on the edge of the top 8 here, trading 8th and 9th back and forth between Mutta and Rialu. It's a very close-knit race here for that final spot in the top 8. About halfway through this track as well, so Scrapie's time is ticking to make his mark here on Whirlpool. If you guys are just tuning in as well, we're on race number 4 of the day. This 4th map, though, could have a big impact on the overall points for the day here for Scrapie. The difference between 8th and 9th place points is quite a bit here when you're in these final maps of the day. And as you can see, it's going to be, I believe, Rialu there who went down and out. Or actually, it's Mutta there, the one going down and out. So Mutta moves all the way to the back of the pack. Scrapie now into the top 8, into the Whirlpool section here as well. Has to try and keep the consistency, though, because Ivan is very close behind him and definitely eager to overtake that 8th position. Right now for Scrapie, it's all about maintaining that consistency here in the final 2 laps and seeing what he can do. And as you can see, it looked like Papu there maybe had an issue going down and out as well. So Papu takes a hit, having some trouble now. Scrapie moving into 7th position, putting himself in good standing here in the final 2 laps. It's going to be 6th now as well for Scrapie. Another overtake there here on lap number 5. Into the big loop here, looking for more. Still some small potential for a pass here coming up soon. He's not quite as close as he needs to be to get that full potential here in this next set of turns, but still, for Scrapie at this point, maintaining is still a positive 6th place. Not a bad position to be in here on our 4th track of the day. Coming out of the uphill section into the Whirlpool, still holding on to 6th place, but as you can see, a very large number of drivers close behind him. 3 very, very close indeed. It's Rialu, Papu, and Ivan very close within striking distance here of Scrapie as we go into the final lap. The final lap here, a lot on the line for Scrapie. The difference between 6th and 10th, all very, very close on this lap timer right now. As we can see, though, Scrapie continuing to try and keep it clean here in the final lap on Whirlpool, coming out of these last couple of turns, even trying to recover some ground onto Pack here in that 5th position into the big loop. Gaining a little bit of time over Ivan is the key here, keeping that distance between that triple set of drivers very close behind him. And Scrapie going into this final lap, it's all about just keeping it clean, making sure there aren't any mistakes that can cost. And as I say that, it looks like Ivan went down and out here. And there you have it. It's going to be Scrapie now in 5th position going into the Whirlpools, but it is going to be a quick overtake from the set of 3 drivers that are now right on Scrapie's heels here. This is going to be a neck-and-neck finish amongst all of these drivers in 5th through 10th position here. Ivan with the inside cut, Rialu there as well. This is going to be a tough one, as it's now going to be into the finish line. Scrapie holding on to a 6th place finish there, neck and neck down to the finish line, but Scrapie still manages to hold on for another top 6 finish. Beautifully done there, and making sure he kept his composure right at the key moments there in order to hold on to that placement. Definitely a good thing to see coming out of Scrapie. As we've seen in the past, some of those last laps can really result in some risks that go against him, but this time around, he keeps it on his side for another strong finish here, and that's exactly what we love to see, as now it's going to be another 8 points on the table for Scrapie. And I believe he'll just be holding on to a good position here right now with 29 points. But this is where all of the risk is out there here, guys. These last 2 maps of the day, it can be a huge momentum boost for your overall points, but it can also be one of the most devastating things if you fall down in that 9th place or 10th place position on one of these final 2 tracks. All of your points are at risk here in the final 2 tracks of the day, so we definitely need the positive vibes and energy from you guys, and we'll hope that Scrapie can fight his way here to the top in these final 2 tracks of the day. Scrapie, I believe, needs in the ballpark of about 50 points or so on the overall day in order to actually make it into the top 8 for the end of the regular season here. So he's definitely in a position where he could do that with 2 top 8s here in the final races of the day, but any of these 2 races that result in a bottom 8 finish basically means it would be impossible for Scrapie to have a top 8 finish in the overall points for the season here. So really, for Scrapie, everything going to be on the line in these final 2 tracks of the day. This is the season on the line here. A top 8 spot could be his if he has a good performance here to close out these final 2 tracks of step number 6. Before we hop into these final 2 tracks, though, guys, a quick shout out to our sponsors, Logitech G, XP Sports, and Surfshark. Be sure to check them all out in the panels down below and show them some nice support as well. We've also got a discount code for Scrapie through XP Sports as well. You can use code Scrapie at xpsports.com for 30% off your order there. So definitely be sure to give them a nice support there from Scrapie. So here we have it, 2.5 minutes until we kick off this 5th map. A lot on the line. Looking at the points overall as well, Bren, Rialu, Kappa, all drivers in a situation where they're in need of a lot of heavy points on the overall leaderboards as well. Pack and Carl Jr. doing well on the day. Actually doesn't really hurt Scrapie too much. If anything, Scrapie is going to benefit more from drivers like Carl Jr. or Pack doing really well because they've already guaranteed themselves a spot in the top 8. There's not really any potential for Pack or Carl Jr., I believe, to get past in points here today. So them doing well isn't going to hurt Scrapie. It's these drivers that are in that middle of the pack fight that Scrapie wants to see do poorly while he's also doing well today. He's going to have a lot of things come together, though, for that to happen, and it's really going to be a tough final set of races here to close out the regular season. Ski Jump going to be the first of the final 2 maps here, and definitely a challenging map to say the least. Right now, though, you can see in the warm-up, Scrapie just trying to get comfortable and prepared here on these last 2 tracks of the day. Ski Jump going to be, I think, a pretty tough track for a lot of these drivers, but Scrapie, he's definitely put in the homework here. He's ready to go. It's just going to be a matter of keeping his composure here and making sure he doesn't take too many unnecessary risks in these final 2 maps, because one bottom 8 finish is all it might take for the season to slip away. As we can see here, though, race 5 about to kick off here in just about 45 seconds. And then Scrapie will have his chance once again to have a strong placement. And if you guys have been tuning in throughout the day so far, I have to say, in terms of overall performance so far, it's looked to be Scrapie's strongest day that we've seen in quite some time. So if he can keep up what we saw in the first 3 maps, I'm pretty confident he can have a strong close to the day, because he's only had 1 race today outside of the top 8. The very first race of the day finishing in 9th, and then the other 3 races today finishing in the top 6 in all 3 of those. So definitely not a bad place to be for Scrapie right now, but it's all about holding on to these points here and having that big finish here in these final 2 where everything is on the line here. All of the points are at risk for all of the drivers here, and this is really his chance to make himself known here in this final set of tracks. Right now, though, it is time to kick it off. Ski Jump, here we go, guys. It's going to be our 5th map of the day. Scrapie looking to do what he can here in the final 2 tracks of the regular season. Coming around the first turn, it is going to be Scrapie definitely in the middle of the pack here. Not a comfortable spot to be just yet, but a lot of these drivers, you can see, having a few issues with how they cut the corners here. Scrapie, though, coming out of the first big jump there, looking pretty clean, but still trying to maintain his momentum and potentially work his way into a few passes here. Right now, though, definitely not a safe spot for Scrapie to be in, currently sitting in the back end of the middle of the pack. Going into the boost section here, Scrapie looking to maybe make up a little bit of ground, currently right around that 11th position. Coming out of it, though, it's not going to be too much gained or lost here from Scrapie, still just within the fight here. This is where Scrapie's going to have to be cautious, tries to take a different approach here to maybe get some extra momentum on him, but I don't actually think that one paid off. Unfortunately, right now, 13th place for Scrapie as we kick off lap number 2. He's definitely going to have to find ways to cut down this lap time in order to be successful here on this track. Still a very tight-knit pack here. Pretty much everyone outside of Spam, who had a pretty big blunder there in the first lap, is within this distance of having a top 8 finish for themselves. Scrapie still in the back section of the middle of the pack and looking for ways to maybe clean it up here in lap number 2. Scrapie, though, still having some trouble holding on here to his position, but also making a little bit of ground onto Lincoln Arl here as well. Going into the boost section, Scrapie able to move to about 10th here. Not too bad of an approach. We'll see if he can keep it, though, coming into the turn. Just out of it, it's going to be Scrapie now working his way on a big momentum boost play. He goes for the overtake on the jump here and the inside cut. I think that inside cut, though, may end up paying off in the long run. It does seem to get him a little bit more consistency in just his pacing overall. So Scrapie now moving into 7th place here as we kick off lap number 3. Scrapie, though, he's not done yet. He's still looking for more. Definitely not a safe position to be in, as he's definitely at risk of getting overtaken here and falling quickly out of the top 8, so he has to be cautious. As you can see, this middle pack still very, very clumped up here, and anybody's spot for the taking in this top 8. Scrapie needing to get into this group in the top 4 that's just slightly ahead of the rest of the pack here. If he can find his way up to where Gwen is, he's going to be in a much safer position, but right now this middle of the pack is neck and neck again going into the drop-down boost section here. Scrapie, though, we'll see if he takes the inside cut here again coming out of it. It seemed to play into his favor the last time around, but he also has to make sure he keeps the momentum coming out of it, because that sharp cut can come against him here if he doesn't make that momentum to get over the flag there. Coming out of it, though, into the next lap, it's going to be Scrapie now in 7th position, still within the fight here amongst the top 8, looking for more going into the loop. It's going to be a tight finish, to say the least, here for Scrapie. 7th place, definitely not a safe spot just yet, but he's still looking for more gains here in lap number 4. The pack still very, very close. You can see every single driver in front of Scrapie is within about a second of distance here, so only a second separating these drivers amongst the top 8 means it's still anybody's for the taking, but it also means that one bad move can push you out of the top 8 very quickly here. So Scrapie definitely needs to keep his composure in this last set of laps here. Going into the boost drop down section, Scrapie, you can see the momentum on his side here. He swings into the top 6, and now the question is, can he hold on to it here as we close out this lap? As you can see there from the wide angle view, it's going to be all of the drivers still neck and neck. Scrapie this time around still going to be taking that extra cut to get the momentum on his side going through to the finish line and into the next lap. I like this approach from Scrapie because it's just something that shows he's not afraid to differ from what the other drivers are doing in order to try and be more successful here. And that one small decision could be enough to boost him up a couple spots here each lap. So right now, the fight between the top 5, very, very close-knit here. Scrapie going to be overtaken by this clump of about 3 drivers, bumping himself back into 8th here, so definitely not a safe spot to be just yet. Right on that cutoff between 8th and 9th is the danger zone you don't want to be in. 2 laps remaining here as well on ski jump. Scrapie still trying to fight his way for a top 8 finish here. going into the boost section here. Scrapie keeping that momentum on his side, moves back into 7th place position. This is still a very dangerous spot to be in. Scrapie, no room for errors here, has to keep it clean as well, and still needs to be looking for that pass potential. Coming out of it though, Scrapie has a very clean approach this time around. Coming out of it, hits 5th place, and coming into the finish line here, he's going to be able to hold on to it. Final lap here on the table for Scrapie, moving into 5th place position as well with it. All he needs to do is hold on to the top 8 here, and he'll be very comfortable going into this final race of the day. But right now it's not over just yet. Trying to keep himself in the position he needs to here in the final lap is much easier said than done. As you can see, it is going to be Yvonne and Kappa looking for the overtakes here as well. Mutta not too far behind them. So the battle amongst the top 9 still very close here. The only drivers comfortably out in front will be Gwen and Tween here. The overtake, though, comes onto Scrapie, who quickly moves into 8th place here. Going into the boost section and the final sections of track, he's going to have to be perfect here to close this one out. This one's going to be down to the wire here as he moves into 6th place in the boost section. Has to keep it clean around the final corners, and that inside cut is going to be everything here in the final lap. Scrapie looking to maintain, moves into 5th, hits the inside cut here. He's going to go for it again as well. Takes it a little bit quicker this time around, moving around the final corner, bumps himself up into a big position to close this one out. And there you have it, a big finish once again for Scrapie, taking 5th place here on ski jump. That is going to be a big momentum boost for Scrapie here. And as you can see, a lot of points being lost on your right-hand side of the screen as well. Pack losing all of them. Scrapie now in 5th place going into the final map. But this is going to be everything on the line here for Scrapie. He needs to have a big finish here in the final race. Just getting 8th place may not even be enough here because Scrapie's only on 38 points. And I believe he needs at least 50 to get this one done. So I believe Scrapie not only needs to be in the top 8, I believe a top 4 is actually the only way he may make it through into that top 8. So we'll see if he can find a way through, but this is what it all comes down to. Scrapie, the final map of the regular season. It's going to be do or die for him here, and a lot of pressure, I'm sure, but still, if anyone can do it, I think Scrapie has that potential. He's had such a good day overall. 4 out of the 5 maps we've seen so far, he's been in a top 8 position when it's all said and done. So Scrapie going into this final map of the day, this is his chance to prove himself and really close out the season strong. All right, guys. We'll see if this is it here. Appreciate everybody tuning in and showing your support for Scrapie here as well in the chat. Be sure to follow here if you haven't as well. Right now, though, it is warm-up mode on the final track of the regular season here. It's going to be Slo-Mo Forest to see how Scrapie puts this one to a close. Before we hop into it, a quick shout out to our partners here as well, XP Sports, Logitech G, and Surfshark. Be sure to check them out in the panels down below. But guys, we are just about ready to kick it off for what might be the most impactful map of the season here for Scrapie. If you guys are hanging out in chat as well, let me know, how do you think this one is going to end? I'm curious to see your thoughts. Where do you think Scrapie's going to finish at the end of the regular season? And how do you think this final race is going to go on Slo-Mo Forest? I know Scrapie has shown today he's put in the time and effort to have the potential to get it done. But at the end of the day, like I said earlier in the broadcast, it's not only Scrapie doing well here, it's some of these drivers that are just in front of him in points also doing poorly. So Scrapie has that ability to jump up the leaderboards where he needs to, because Kappa right now is just in front of Scrapie in overall points and on the day as well over him by 1 point. So Kappa is unpassable unless Scrapie beats him in this race here. Scrapie, though, this is his chance. Here we go, Slo-Mo Forest to conclude us for the regular season. Coming out of the first set of turns here, it is neck and neck. Everybody vying for those last points that they could possibly get here in the regular season. Scrapie currently right around 8th position coming out of the first few turns here. It's going to be a tough one, though. This first lap, you can see the aggression from all of these drivers vying for those final points on the table. Scrapie, though, like I said, he's going to need a top 4 finish here to really have the impact he's been looking for on the overall day. A win here would be huge for Scrapie. He hasn't had a first place finish yet on this season so far. And unfortunately, it is going to be a blunder here for Scrapie in the drop-down section. That is going to be a massive hit against him here, and a bit of a devastating one to say the least. Right now, though, Scrapie, he's going to be in full recovery mode for the remainder of this race, but that hit is going to hurt quite a bit. Scrapie looking to do everything he can here on this final track to try and recover. But he is 5 seconds off of an 8th place position, and that is not an easy recovery here, to say the least. And with this kind of pressure on the line, Scrapie, he not only has to play perfect at this point, he's also going to have to rely on some other drivers making mistakes here to really fight his way back up. As we can see into this next run through, the trees again, unfortunately, going to result in a bit of an unfortunate situation here for Scrapie, to the point where I don't see the recovery happening at this point. When you're 10 seconds off of the top 8, it just doesn't seem too likely here. An unfortunate and potentially bitter end here for Scrapie. That set of trees, though, just kind of being the death of him here so far on this final track of the day. Coming out of it, though, it's going to be Scrapie just kind of fighting here with Pack over that last position. But Scrapie, at this point, it's almost unrecoverable, unfortunately. And when we're talking about the last race of the day as well, this 38 may end up only being 1 or 2 points overall for the day as well, which honestly is a bit of an injustice, I think, to how Scrapie's done on the day. It's unfortunate to see, you know, one bad race here could ultimately take away all of the success of the day, but unfortunately that's just how the point system goes here, guys. And Scrapie going to be in a tough spot here for the remainder of the track. Coming out of this one, though, it's looking like, at best, I would say maybe 14th or 13th here on the final track of the day, but unfortunately it's just going to be a tough one here for Scrapie. Right now, though, leading the charge here, it is going to be Massa in first place right now here on the final track of the day and of the regular season here. We'll see what can be done for Scrapie, but at this point it's basically, with the time difference, an unwinnable situation, really. And unfortunately, a bit of a bitter end to the season here. Scrapie, that section of trees right there, that may haunt him for a little bit of time here, because that is the section that determined his fate here in the regular season, unfortunately so. And you at least have to hand it to Scrapie. These last 2 weeks, he's played a lot better, I would say, overall. Unfortunately, in Step 5, he had a 9th place finish last week in the final race, losing all of his points. And then, of course, here, it's looking like another points lost in the final race as well. After, honestly, one of the stronger days overall he's had. It's a shame that it came down to a final map blunder here, but unfortunately, that's just how it goes. And we'll see what he can do in the future here. But honestly, either way, definitely have to give out a shout out to Scrapie here for just showing some resilience even with his back against the wall, and at least trying what he could here in this final step of the season. And you know, at the end of the day, that's all we can ask for here. I know for Scrapie too, he came into this week and I had talked to him and he said, hey, look, man, I haven't been sleeping very well. I'm just going to go out there and do what I can. And you know, for Scrapie, I have to say, you know, given the circumstances of the season, I'm still definitely proud with what he was able to do throughout the course of these last 2 weeks, especially here. So either way, hopefully he can close this one with his head held high and just look to the future here to see what he can do moving forward. But it's looking like this is where it'll end here, guys. Scrapie going to take the L on this one. But at the end of the day, we'll see what he can do moving forward. And there you have it, guys. This will be the finish here. It is going to be Scrapie finishing in the back of the pack, unfortunately, here in our final lap of the day. And that will be that. We'll go ahead and take a look, though, at the overall points one last time. Unfortunately, this does mean Scrapie is going to be only finishing the day with 1 point, 38 points lost in the final track of the day. And unfortunately, that will mean an end of the regular season for Scrapie. Outside of the top 8, we'll see what can happen, though. We'll definitely be here for the coverage in the postseason to see who ultimately closes it out with a victory. But at the end of the season, it is going to be Scrapie, unfortunately, falling into 14th here in the final race of the day. And there you have it, guys. That will be the end of Step 6 and the end of the regular season here as well, putting Scrapie into the bottom 4. So we'll see what he can do moving forward here. But at the end of the day, appreciate everybody tuning in throughout the regular season here and showing their support for Scrapie. It's been incredible to have you guys tuning in throughout his journey here in the winter 2021 regular season, guys. Definitely appreciate everybody's support here. That is where we're going to end things, though, for the day, guys. It's been incredible, and we look forward to seeing you guys tune in for our postseason coverage as well to see who can ultimately come through with a win here at the end of the TMGL Winter 2021 season. Guys, be sure to follow the channel here if you haven't to stay up to date with what's going on with TMGL and, of course, for Scrapie's solo streams as well to continue to show them your amazing support here. It's been a pleasure, guys, and we'll see you for the postseason, and thanks for tuning in. Cheers, guys.
Rather be no other place than here with you. I see your face in the crowd, but you don't seem so far away.